Welcome back, everyone, to the Paddock Podcast. We are here in Monza for the second-to-last race of the F2 season as Liam Lawson previously secured the F2 Drivers' Championship, which now leaves only the Constructors' Championship up for grabs between the leading Carlin team and the tailing team of Virtuosi. With the race last time around in Spa heating up, it was Johnson who was working through the field when their race came to an unfortunate end, bringing out a safety car allowing his teammate Marino Sato to win the race. Now, without keeping you guys waiting, we're off to F2 qualifying here in Monza.
As we wind down from the excitement of qualifying, here's a look at your top three. Lawson, Johnson, Logan Sargent. The grid is set then, so that just leaves the race itself. Join us tomorrow where we'll be live with all the action, and until then, goodbye. Hello and welcome back to a classic circuit, familiar to fans the world over. This is Monza. You can hear the cars ready to go. Certainly the fans are ready for some action. We're all set. So let's get this Formula 2 race underway. Monza is one of the faster circuits in Formula 2, comprising some very long straights and tight chicanes. The engine spends so long at full throttle, in fact, that engine failures are not an uncommon sight here. On top of that, the 3.6 miles of track are pretty hard on the gearbox too. And here are the driver grid positions for today's race. Liam Lawson lines up on pole position, and Johnson completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Sargent, Verschoor, Frederick Vesti, Williams, Pourchaire, Deruvala, Sato, Ayumu Awasa, Armstrong, Vips, Felipe Dragovic, Dennis Hauger, Caldwell, Novalak, Fittipaldi, and Ralph Boschong. Cordial, Nissani, Hughes, and Tatiana Calderon completes the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. I'm not the only one sitting here today who's looking forward to today's race. My friend and GP2 champion Davide Valsecchi is next to me, already on the edge of his seat, awaiting the start of the event. How's it going today?
Hello there, Alex. I'm great, thank you, and very excited to get started. I have a feeling we are in for a very special event today.
The formation lap gets underway for this, the Formula 2 race, and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure the car is ready for battle once the lights go out.
Test.
We are almost ready to start the Formula 2 race as the cars take their positions on the grid, with the drivers and teams making their final preparations.
All right, so here we are coming up to our grid slot. Possible race strategies there. Going to be looking towards a lap 8 pit stop here as we have Sargent there coming in P3 for qualifying, pulling up to our grid slot. We also have Sato coming there, round number 5, P9 for the start of this race. We're hoping that he gets a better finish than Sargent, as well as myself better than Liam Lawson there in the front end. Haven't recorded a video in a minute, so a little off the charts here as the 5 red lights are off. We're off to a okay start. Lawson has a better start than us, but we have a better launch. Sargent's still P3, fending off Verschoor. Vesti against Williams. Williams will take P5 from Vesti before coming up to this first chicane. And we're going to be coming through ahead of Lawson. So myself, Lawson, Sargent for P3, Verschoor, Vesti, Williams, and a lot of other grid changes here, so it's hard to give your top 10. So Vesti, Alasa, Deruvla, Sato, Porcher for our top 10. Sato side by side with Porcher fighting for P9. As we come up to the second chicane, about a half second already ahead of Lawson. And that's going to be another second ahead of Logan Sargent for P3. So myself and Lawson starting to pull away a little bit from Sargent and the rest of the pack. As you can see, our groups on the grid aren't really forming as of yet. It's just myself and Lawson getting away from Sargent, and Sargent leading the way for everybody else. So, coming through Sector 2 to the start of the final sector, the final chicane here, pushing really well, 6/10 or so between myself and Lawson. So lost a little bit of time through that final chicane, and we have a little bit of a slip up there over the curve. So Lawson's going to be able to capitalize on that. 3/10 now, as 1.8 behind Sargent. So 2-second gap between Lawson and Sargent as Lawson makes a move up the inside of us. We had a little bit of a mistake. We get caught up on the curve as well. So we are able to carry our momentum as we're moving on to lap 2. You can see the gap between P2 and P3 already increasing to about 2.3 seconds or so. We're still fighting Lawson for the lead. It's going to be like this throughout the entire race, I feel like, as we make our move through the chicane. Lawson backs out. Another half second or so between myself and Lawson for the remainder of lap 2, all the way to lap 5. Lawson, 3/10, coming through the second sector, the final chicane, coming down the hill. DRS open on Lawson. DRS open on lap 3, and he's closing that gap. We're going to lose a little bit of time here as we're still trying to get used to this corner. 4/10 or so is the gap, and we have Lawson closing it to about 2/10, but we see Lawson, plume of smoke coming from his Carlin car. That's going to be a DNF, so it's going to be the other way around. We had a DNF yesterday, or we had a DNF last time around, and Lawson won the championship. Lawson's going to have the DNF this time, and we're hoping to finish this race with a win and getting Sato ahead of Logan Sargent. So that's going to be the start of lap 6. Lawson out of the race, and people are going to be coming into their early pit stops. I decided to stay out another lap on these soft tires. That's why you see Sato back in P15, because he went in last lap, and they were going to have me, but they took Sato instead. We have a trail of 3 cars: Williams, Sargent, Vesti behind myself. I believe that's Owasa and Deruvla as well. First 6 runners who have yet to go into the pits are coming in for the second iteration of pit stops. And we're coming in for our new set of mediums, as you can see some other drivers who haven't pit yet coming in as well. A little bit of a late launch there. You see a little bit of a stall where we didn't come out, but we're still going to be coming out in the lead. Myself, Williams, Sargent, Vesti. So I don't believe there was a grid change much to any worry. But the important part is Williams out in P2 behind me, ahead of Sargent, and Verschoor, his teammate of the Trident drivers, side by side coming into the first chicane. And that's lap 9 out of 15. So we're over halfway through this race, as we have 2 Trident cars behind us, as we're going to go ahead and head over to the commentary box.
We are 6 laps away from the checkered flag here in Monza, as Johnson leads the charge. Verschoor and Williams are not far behind, as it seems that Johnson isn't pushing too much out there on the new set of mediums. We did happen to have Lawson DNF earlier in the race, as he was closing the gap on Johnson, but with that DNF brings Virtuosi closer to being able to fight for the Constructors' Championship.
You are right, Alex. There has been so much going on within F2 this season, and we're almost to the end of the season. A little bit of a recap on Johnson, as he didn't have a great start to the season, mainly because the way that regulations were at the time, having 2 races throughout one weekend. But after a few races, drivers and teams decided to rule against that format for driver safety, and Johnson was able to capitalize on that change the most, as he is leading the charge with Virtuosi to claim that Constructors' Championship.
The DNF from Lawson today will take the pressure off the backs of Virtuosi, but they still have to worry about Sargent scoring points. Carlin needs to score as many points as they can to secure the Constructors' title, and Virtuosi is hoping for Sato to finish ahead of Sargent to increase their chances, but only time will tell as we have a few laps to go in this very interesting race here in Monza.
This has been a very interesting race. We let off a little bit against For Sure and Williams. Sargent still holding on to P4 at the end of this lap. No position changes. Vips and Owasso fighting. Sato back into P11. And we are still pushing these medium tires a little bit more than we did the soft tires to finish out the rest of this race in the lead, as the two Trident cars are pretty evenly paced against us. They're holding on to their own, and we're trying to push ahead, and they keep catching up. But moving on to the final lap, you can see that they are still close behind. Still Sargent defending P4 against the other driver. I don't remember the names. A little bit too much curb there through the first chicane, as we only have a few more corners to go. This is one of the tracks with not very many turns. A long right-hander here through Sector 1, start of Sector 2. And holding our own, feeling very comfortable this late into the race on these medium tires. And very satisfied that we don't have to stress about fighting against Lawson, because he'd already won the championship in DNF earlier in the race on lap 5, start of lap 6, as we're still pushing our way to a victory here in Monza for a good chunk of points.
Guys, thank you so much. You've been great all weekend. To everyone back in the factory, on the pit wall, you've been amazing.
Ah, fantastic drive. That's just fantastic. Amazing. You deserved that race win. Well done, mate.
That's it for another race and a fantastic win for Virtuosi. Davide, what do you think made the difference here?
This race, this win, was about one thing and one thing only: consistency. Anyone can be quick for just one lap, but there's a difference between that and being quick every lap, over and over and over. If you can do that, if you can gain ground when your opponents make mistakes, but then not make mistakes on your own, you can just push and push.
Another race and another victory for Virtuosi as we see the drivers make their way out to the podium for the final ceremony. Superb racing out there today and a well-deserved win. After this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. It was not the best weekend for our championship leader, and their advantage at the top has been reduced. Now then, Davide Valsecchi, who would you say was your driver of the day?
I have to give it to Johnson.
And now a look at the team standings. It was a tough race for our championship leaders, who lose ground at the top of the table. It was also a strong race from Trident this weekend. Fantastic work from the Italian team to move themselves further up the table. After all this drama, you would be mad not to join us for the next race. We hope to see you then. Take care.